Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Dave Noodles, and we are on the Type 88 show, where we talk to people about how they turn their dreams into reality. And this woman right here has created a platform for so many dreamers to connect. I I'm still friends with many of the people whose events that she's put on, and she is and what like I remember when we just became friends. This woman was just connecting people all over. And it was like her job to connect people and dreamers and people from all different walks, whether they were in business or photography or music or whatever it was. She gave people a home to meet and connect and grow. And now every day she just makes people's lives a better and brighter place, by helping them remember memories and special moments. And she's going to share her story with us today. So I just want to welcome Sam Popp to the show. How are you today? Welcome.
I'm doing very well. Appreciate that introduction. I mean, I could actually say the same for you. There's several people lots of people that I am still connected to because of your events as well. But yeah, I'm doing great and very happy to be here with you and to catch up. It's been a little while since we've talked. So
Yeah.
yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, maybe tell us where you grew up or where were like the first streets that you were like raised on or, you were part of or whatever.
Yeah, sure. So, well, for anybody that doesn't know me, hello, my name is Sam Popp. I'm a photographer. I am a marketing and social media manager, events manager, as Dave alluded to. I'm currently a New Yorker. I live uptown in New York City. I'm coming up on my 7-year anniversary of living here. But prior to New York City, I grew up in the faraway land of New Jersey, about 30 miles south of the city in a town called Edison. It's a huge metropolitan kind of town with a lot of transit and commuters to New York City. So we had school trips to New York City growing up. As soon as I turned 18, I started taking the train into the city to go to, see live music, to see music, to go to museums. Just I felt like I didn't grow up in New York, but I grew up very New York adjacent. And now I've been here for the last 7 years. So, and I've unfortunately not lived anywhere else than that. I recently did an exercise with my team at my old job, and everyone had to like list out the places that they lived. Like people had like Europe and Asia, like all over, and I was like, oh, New York, New Jersey, but proud of that, proud to be
Yeah.
from New Jersey, and proud to be a New Yorker now. So that's me.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so Edison, New Jersey, and now you're in Uptown. So
Yes. Yeah.
you went from lots of parking to probably no parking, pretty
Well,
much.
I don't have a car
Gotcha, gotcha.
anymore.
Fair
I
enough.
don't have
Yeah.
a
You got
car.
to adapt.
And well, one of the reasons why I don't have a car is because the parking is so bad here. Actually, last night I saw somebody had posted on one of the local Facebook groups I'm on that they had to take their car in because rats were living like under the hood of their
Oh,
car,
wow.
like made a nest. And I took a screenshot of this and I sent this to my sister. And I was like, I'll never have a car in this city. Like, I didn't know you had to worry about rats. Like if you don't drive your car often enough, they'll start building a nest under the hood of your
Wow.
car. I was like, oh yeah, no. I mean, I want a car. I want a car. I mean, I have been accepting some photography gigs that are like more in the tri-state area, like New Jersey and Connecticut, upstate New York, and
Yeah.
it would be great to have a car to be able to get to those. But I manage without, and could always rent one right across the George Washington Bridge. So
Yeah. There
yeah,
you go. And I think that just kind of just goes to show like that your attitude, right? Like you're like, well, I'm gonna make it work. I'm here. Oh, I don't got a car. I'll
yeah,
just figure it out. I'm gonna find a way to make it work. And so maybe you could kind of bring us back a little bit because when we met, you were you were organizing and curating experiences for people,
yeah.
businesses and arts and all different stuff. So maybe like, how did that even come to be? Because that was a special moment. I've been to
Yeah,
many of them, and it was great Great times.
Yeah, well, first I want to quickly tell a story of how you and I got connected because I think it's so
Yeah.
funny. Um, I was just about to move to New York City. It was probably like April or May of 2015, and my roommate and I wanted to go see Mad Decent Block Party in Brooklyn, but it was sold out. And I don't even know if they still do Mad Decent, but that
They
was
haven't. I've been looking for it.
dang. I've been
Diplo's
to that
busy.
one. I went to that one and I went to the one in Austin. I went to one which was
Oh.
nowhere near as cool as the one in Brooklyn. But I don't even think Diplo was at the one in Brooklyn because the headliner for that one was Flostradamus, who
Ah.
like honestly that set was like top 5 live music moments of my entire that
Wow.
Flostradamus set, right?
Yeah, he's a beast.
So it was sold out. My roommate and I wanted to go to this show in Brooklyn, and you sold me tickets. I connected to you on, I think it was the Facebook event page
Yeah.
for Mad Decent Block Party. You were selling 2 tickets at face value. You just could not go to the event anymore because you were running your own event.
I
The
remember that.
was it the Ninja
I
Party,
think it
I
was the
think?
ninja party
The
that weekend.
Ninja
Yeah.
Party. And you were like, I just can't go. Like I'm not trying to make money off these tickets. I just like want to get rid of them and just be reimbursed for what I spent for them. So I drove. I'd never driven to Staten Island before in my life. I drove to Staten Island, which was actually only like 30 minutes from my house. So Edison is very close to Staten
It
Island,
is.
super,
Yeah.
super accessible. But I'd never driven there before myself. Drove there, met you on the porch of your house. You sold me the tickets and you're like, yeah, I'm doing this ninja party. I was like, let's stay connected. Like you just
Yeah.
had a cool vibe. And I think we recognize that in each other. So that was how we met, which was such a strange and interesting story, how you can meet somebody in just such a very quick passing way. Because, you know, I've bought things from other people off of
Yeah.
Facebook and it's not resulted in a 7-year long relationship with
I
somebody,
know.
you know? So
That
it's
is
cool how you
it
meet
is true.
people and where the relationship goes. So yeah, when I met you, I was about 5 or 6 months into hosting these events with this group that I had organized on meetup.com called Teach and Learn Networking. So to rewind it back a little more than that, it's kind of a interesting story. So stay with me as I tell it. But my original dream, if we're here to talk about dreams and
Yeah.
what we're thinking about for the future, my original dream was to be a social worker. I went to school for psychology with the intention to go get my master's in social work. I had been working for nonprofits taking care of children and adults with autism and developmental disabilities since I was 19 years old. And before that, like all throughout high school, was babysitting local children with autism. So I had all of this experience working in group homes and job programs and just, you know, babysitting, respite care, all kinds of professional caregiving work. Um, and that's what my dream was. I was, my sights were kind of set on getting a job with the state and just continuing to work in this developmental disabilities field and industry. I mean, when you go into social work, there's a lot of different avenues you can go into.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can work in addiction or with the homeless population. Like my thing was to continue to work with children and families with autism and developmental disabilities. But by the age 24, which is very young, I was extremely burnt out. I was working really, really long, grueling hours managing group homes, doing very physical work, making a very small amount of money. And even though I knew that I wanted to be a social worker, like that was something that I had dreamed about for years, it was no longer looking like a possibility for me because I was poor, like not just like broke, like making $28,000 a year, working sometimes 70, 80-hour weeks, overnight shifts, doing, you know, changing adult diapers, lifting people in and out of wheelchairs. It
Wow.
was emotionally and physically tasking. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And how am I ever going to put myself through graduate school? How, like, I don't have any money to even buy food. Like, I couldn't dream any further than just like
Mm.
what was right in front of me, you know? So my roommate at the time was working for a leasing company, leasing apartments. He worked a variety of jobs, but somewhere nearby to our house, and was starting to learn more about the real estate industry. So that was kind of piquing my interest a little bit. And I, I just told this story to somebody, so I have this like little detail stuck in my head. I remember I was at work. I was at the group home. I was doing some paperwork on the computer, and I got an email that was literally a Groupon to go to real estate school. So you could get your real estate license to sell real estate within 2 weeks. It was two 40-hour weeks. You took this 80-hour class, and at the end, you take a test, you pass, you are a licensed real estate agent in New Jersey, where I was living at the time. And I had a ton of vacation, and I just texted my boss, who I was really cool with. Shout out to Teresa. I'm still friends with her. I was like, would you let me take 2 weeks off to do my real estate license? And she was like, yeah. So I did that, and I did my real estate license. And I was actually, this was 2014. So I was 24 years old. Knew nothing about real estate. Like, I wouldn't ever even recommend anyone who's that young to get their real estate license, because people your age are not buying. How, like, my personal network was not like anybody that was going to be buying a house. However, doing the certification gave me some exposure to marketing and to business. I had spent years sitting in classes about positive communication and emotional intelligence and de-escalation techniques, because I was working in the social services. Now, all of a sudden, I'm learning about how to, create an online presence, or how to communicate with the intention to sell, maybe not to de-escalate a crisis, but you're trying to communicate. You can take control of a conversation in a way that you can bring it to a desired outcome. So this kind of opened my eyes a bit to something different than social work. Because if you would have asked me back then, like, all right, Samantha, you don't want to go get your MSW anymore, what do you want to do? I didn't know, but it was through getting my real estate license that I started the Teach and Learn networking events. Because when you join a real estate brokerage, your Weichert or your Remax, like the company that you go and work for, they tell you to go out there and to network and to go meet people, to go sell houses to, which was also a new concept to me, to professionally network. But they tell you to go do that. And I did that. I joined some meetups. I joined this group called the New Jersey Young Professionals. I really made an effort to go out there and make new connections. And I started to do it, but I noticed that a lot of these environments, especially for somebody like me who's outgoing and is really not shy, I don't mind going up and introducing myself to strangers. These environments where you walk into a ballroom at a hotel that's a business networking event, and there's 400 people there and everyone just has a name tag, it's extremely intimidating. And I didn't feel like I was really like networking or making connections with people. So there was a woman that I had met through one of these other networking meetups that I had gone to. And I was telling her these same complaints, like kind of saying how I wasn't really liking the format of the events. She goes, Samantha, why don't you just start your own? Just start your own networking event. And I was like, okay. And I think this was Christmas Eve of 2014. I was at the Edison Diner with this lady, and she's like, just start your own networking event. And I was like, all right. Meetup.com, if you're not familiar with it, it's very easy to go on there and find other people's events. And it's also really easy to go on there and start organizing your own events. You can sign up to be a meetup organizer and create your group for your interest. I created this, it was called Teach and Learn Networking. If I do a little bit more remembering, I'll maybe remember how we came up with that name. I don't even remember like who my roommate helped me a little bit with Teach and Learn Networking. So I'm like, I don't even know how we got to that name, but that's what I decided to name it and put it up on meetup.com. And people started to join the meetup, people I didn't know. So I organized a networking event at a bubble tea cafe that's no longer in existence in Highland Park, New Jersey. And about 30 people showed up for the first one, many of whom I had never met before. They came through the internet.
I think
I was like,
at that
wow.
one. I think I went.
I don't know if you were at the first one.
Okay.
Now you're making me remember now. I had you speak as a panelist on one of those events.
Yeah.
So that was probably in some later months after I had met you and connected with you.
Because you were already seasoned. You already did a bunch by the time
I had already done a bunch. Yeah, I saw how easy it was to connect with local businesses like coffee shops or restaurants who probably don't have any customers on a Monday or Tuesday. They're very open to sharing their space and giving you free event space if you're going to bring in people who they know are going to purchase drinks and food anyway. So I found out it was very easy to get free event space. Meetup.com made it very easy to build a following and to build an audience. I built a mailing list that I could send out my events to and started to build regulars. And what I started doing, it was something beyond just a networking event. I guess that's what I forgot to mention. Like, what was so different about my networking events that I started it? The first thing was that it was all facilitated networking. So you didn't come in and just be on your own. I created a whole bunch of different icebreaker events that were not cheesy, corny, like, two truths and a lie or something, for example, one thing I did was on the name tags, and it was always hilarious to me how nobody ever noticed, but I would put a number, a letter, and a shape on all of the blank name tags, and people would come in and grab them, fill them out, wear them. And after the room filled up, I would call the attention to everyone and say, okay, everybody look down at your name tags and see the shape. And people, oh my God, like people didn't even know that there was a triangle on their badge. And they would look down and say, okay, now go find everybody who has that same shape as you. And we're just going to put you in that group for 5 minutes to chat and talk to each other. And because one of the problems with networking events is sometimes you get stuck talking to people for too long, whether and that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
To leave or to stay. Or,
sometimes, it's awkward to like make that, that departure from the conversation. I was shaking up the room, people would leave that event and say, oh my God, I've never met this many people at an event. I've never got this many business cards. So I did a lot of facilitation to get people to talk to each other. So it was just natural. You didn't feel like you had to just walk up to a stranger and introduce yourself. Not everybody's very good at that. And again, as someone who's super outgoing, I'm not always very good at that. So giving people the reason to introduce themselves made it a lot easier. And then the other thing that I did, which was really not unique, which many networking events do, is I would have a speaker or I would do a panel. And it was all of those events that I did, it was all very basic level kind of business and marketing skills, because I was kind of still learning it myself. We did one that was just on email marketing. I think we did one on public speaking. They're just like basic foundational entrepreneurial and marketing and business kinds of skills. But the one that we had you on, which was really cool, and I actually replicated that event format a couple times, was Ask an Entrepreneur. Because after a few months of doing this, I had connected with enough people that were running their own businesses or doing their own thing. I kind of wanted to bring them all together in an informal kind of, a forum really, and just to let the audience ask questions and, share your expertise. So I think we had Kim from the Jam Company. The exact name of her company is escaping me now, but she's I still follow her on Instagram. She's still running a successful jam company. I'm like,
great.
Wow. I think we had my friend Cliff, who's run a number of businesses, so that was really cool to be able to just offer up this like collective, like, hey, these are people that have done it before. If this is something
Exactly.
you're looking to do, strike out on your own, be a full-time freelancer, entrepreneur, sell your product, whatever it is. These are people that are doing it. Here's your opportunity to ask. So that was a fun opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and it's just so important to just be able to talk to someone who's going through something, and it doesn't have to be the same thing. That just and we're all going through something,
Yeah.
right? And it's just like to hear someone's story. It's like, oh damn, you got 7 kids. Oh
Mm-hmm.
damn, you got a jam business and you ran out of jam. Like, just to hear
Yeah.
the littlest thing, it's like it just puts your life in a kind of humble place. Like, oh word, I'm not the only one going through this, or oh,
Yeah.
it is a little hard, or oh, it is easy, but then it gets hard, then it's easy again, or like, oh, I'm learning too. So that's cool. That it was great to just it was refreshing how you were doing
Mm.
it, and I thought it was amazing, and I think you were on an amazing run. You were doing it for how many years? Like, you were crushing it.
Um, I was pretty actively organizing events up until 2018.
Yeah,
Um, in 2018, late 2018, I started working a super kind of pressure heavy full time job and
yeah,
didn't really have the opportunity to be working on the side project event stuff anymore.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I will tell you, I was really starting to consider how I could get back into it because I always find my way back into events somehow, whether it's helping somebody do their own event or like I always still had my hands in events somehow. And I
yeah.
was like, how can I kind of get back into this? Because to this day, I still have those meetup groups. So there's 3 meetup groups now, 2 in New York City, one that I still maintain in New Jersey with over 6,000 people in them. So I still have the audience there. But I was trying to consider like, oh, what can I start doing again? And then I swear to God, COVID happened, and
Yep,
it's
yep.
not been. I mean, people are doing live events now. I've been to live events. I'm seeing networking events in event listings. Like, people are doing it. And people are doing a lot of really cool stuff virtually as well.
Yeah.
Like connection does not have to just happen in person. I've made an incredible amount of connections and friends during COVID through participating in online stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so there's definitely opportunities to get back involved, and I'm trying to figure out what that looks like for my future now, because it's something I miss, and just even hearing your memories about it, is like from so long ago, like bringing people together absolutely has an impact
Oh
because the
yeah.
relationships that can develop from it can be very long standing and can change your life. I know people that have connected at my events that have gone on to do big creative projects together, who have become business partners, who have just, it there's a lot of power and in
Yeah.
bringing people together for that community. And I want to figure out how to do that again, because now my focus is on running a photography business, which is
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
doing now.
I know.
So it shifted a little bit.
That's so cool. So,
Yeah.
how did that even come to be? Because, you're in this producer state of mind, bringing
Yeah.
people together, worrying about the admin side, the organization, the contacts, curating the experience, and now you're in this it's like this creative you were always creative, but now it's like more of a just creative role. It's
Yeah.
kind of a flip, but you've taken all this admin, business vibes with you. So now, like,
Yes.
and connecting with people, and it kind of just makes sense, like, because photography is such a personal thing. People are having you at the most special days of their lives, or they're about to surprise someone and it's going to be a special day, or it's their wedding, or these are the most memorable days. And now here you are helping them remember those moments. And how did that even come to be? Because it's it's kind of you're driving two different vehicles, even though they both are about connecting people. So maybe
Yeah.
how did you even get into that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I guess another little delve into my personal history and my background. So it was really through organizing these events, because when I say these events, they took on a variety of forms. So I was organizing everything from small networking mixers in coffee shops that when I moved to New York City and started doing that here, it turned into 100 people on a rooftop with a live band playing and body painters and photographers. So when I came up to New York City and started doing it at a little bit more of a serious way, just taking it with some more intention, um, I started working with professional photographers and was exposed to that as an art form, as a career, as a way to live. So I think that was the first thing, was just starting to connect with people doing photography at my own events. And then
Yeah.
beyond that, as I started attending other people's events and getting involved in the party scene in New York City, connecting with a lot of other photographers. So it was first through that. And then I think second, I noticed and got real with myself that I liked taking photos. So when the first couple years that I lived in New York City, I was organizing these events, working on this event series. And as many young ladies do when they come to New York City, I was also nannying. I was a Upper West Side babysitter, which was a lot of fun. But I took those children that I took care of all over the city, and babysitting and taking kids out on field trips, even just picking them up from school every day, taking them to activities, that's what helped me learn the city and learn how to get around. And I was constantly seeing stuff that was truly brand new to me. I was exploring a new place, and with my iPhone, just started taking pictures. Now, a lot of people do not know this, but I used to run an Instagram account. I started it from scratch and built it up. It had a few thousand followers. It was nothing big, but I created this account called New York Pano, like panorama, because what my signature thing that I would do is I would take panoramic photos with my iPhone. And of course, of things that you would expect, like a skyline, what the view is from a rooftop. But I started to use that very long, wide kind of lens effect to take pictures of a big row of fruit in a bodega that was color organized, or cool lights that I saw on the side of a building or in a window. So
Yeah.
I sold prints of some of my photos actually at an event on Staten Island. This is all the memories are
Yeah.
flooding back to me now, but I started to notice that I just liked taking pictures and
Yeah.
walking around and doing that. And I know that we all have cameras in our phones, and we could all probably say we like to take pictures with our phones. So I think that's why I say I had to actually accept for myself that I like to do it, that I wasn't just, playing it down like, oh, it's just phone photography. It's like, no, I'm kind of interested in this as a way
Yeah.
to create. So I wound up this was now 2018, I wound up getting a gig to do social media for a bar in the West Village called Madam X. They've been there for, I think, 23 years at this point. Super iconic, old school New York City bar and lounge. And I got this awesome gig to run their social media. At that time, I had saved up a small amount of money. And I was like, you know what? What if I bought a camera? I think I want to buy a camera. So I bought a $500 Nikon D3400, and I share that because a lot of people are like, what's a good starter camera? I started on the most starter of starter cameras, $500 Nikon D3400, and I took pictures of everything I could. It started off at Madam X. And I really remember those days with that camera, just not knowing at all how to operate it, but just trying to do my best and take pictures of events that were happening at the bar or drinks or the bartenders. And I just
Yeah.
started to practice with this. So it was, again, not to blame COVID for everything, but it was about 4 months before COVID. I had another light bulb go off in my head, and I was like, I really like doing photography, and I think I want to take this a little bit more seriously. So I took an editing class. I learned how to use, actual editing software. I started hanging out at Madam X as much as I could to shoot any event that they had going on, or just anything to just continue to practice. I upgraded my lens. I just started to invest a little bit more time and money into photography. And then COVID
Yeah.
shut everything down.
Yep.
And I briefly lost my full-time job during COVID. And I was like, I'm just going to really learn how to use my camera now. Like,
Yeah.
I have all this time in the world. And I have myself and a tripod. So throughout COVID, I really refined my photography. Well, I don't want started to refine my photography skills by taking self-portraits of myself and then starting to actually share on social media and this was 2020, spring of 2020. I had been taking pictures for almost 2 years at this point, and I had never shared anything that I shot on my Instagram because I did not think it was good enough. And when I
Yeah.
look back on it, it really wasn't good enough. And I'm glad I didn't share it.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where I was like, wait, no, I'm starting to get proud of this. I'm starting to realize that I do know how to use my camera. I do know how to create a photo now. And I do want to share this. And I was like, I don't have a job right now. The world is on fire. Whatever. I'm just going to share my photography. And people started to respond to it and liked it. And it
There you
started a
go.
lot of conversation for me. When during 2020, when things started to feel a little bit more safer, because there was a time where like you couldn't see anybody at all during 2020. When people started to venture out of the house, I kind of put a little call out to my local network, like, hi, I'd like to start experimenting with portraits. And I remember those first couple portrait shoots that I did. The photos that came out of them were really cool. I started to become inspired by what I was creating,
Yeah.
but it was also very clear that I needed more practice. Photography is hard, and really the only way to get better at it is to just keep forcing yourself to do it and just get
Yeah.
out there and practice. So I did that in the later half of 2020 and 2021. I just shot as much as I could. It was the spring of 2021 that I started pitching myself for paid gigs because of all of the event work I've done. I have a lot of connections in the restaurant and bar world.
Oh
So I
yeah.
just started asking if I could shoot events. And, for people that were other than Madam X, I was like, cool, I have all these event shots from Madam X in my portfolio, but I have to start building it with other types of places. And I've shot events for free food and drinks. I've shot shot events for penny, like compared to what I would shoot now. But just kind of pitched myself and started sharing that stuff too. And I've been very grateful over the last year to have a really nice steady stream of clients that are both events and portraits, with very little marketing other than just sharing on social media and authentically and honestly. Like, I really try not to have a very strong call to action in any of what I share. I'm not
Yeah.
like, book me right now, I have a sale, I'm doing portrait.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really just try to let my work speak for itself and just say like, hey, like, here's some gorgeous portraits I'm very proud of that I shot for this person, just
Yeah.
sharing organically what I do. And I'm very blessed to have a very supportive and engaged community really on Instagram. So yeah, very, very grateful for that. And that's kind of how I've ended up here. And my camera's brought me to a lot of interesting places. I want to continue to see where it brings me. So as much as I love the event stuff and want to figure out how I can incorporate that again, photography is kind of my world right now. So
Wow.
yeah.
It it's amazing, right? We kind of hit these walls and it's like, okay, let's paint a door or
Mm,
let's build a door, or let's build a ladder. And life kind life hits us, right? It's like
yeah.
we had we have stuff going for us, and then all of a sudden it either leaves, it's taken away, or it's changed or something, and it's like, what do we do? And at that, it's so crazy how you you were able to see something you loved, and you were like, oh wow, well, I want to keep growing with this. I want to learn more. It's a whole world, and I enjoy this, but I want to take this passion and just go further with it. So you did
Yeah.
that. You got, and I think that's just so great. You started small, right? You didn't like spend absorbent amount
Yeah.
on a camera and like computers and all these different things. You started with a good camera, and then you just kept growing and growing and growing and adding to it. But what I love is you spend a lot of time investing in knowledge. You're like, I want to learn more. I'm going to go to this class. I'm going to take this. I want to advance my knowledge of what I'm doing. And I try to tell that to everyone, Sam.
Yeah.
When we get out of school, we're really just starting to go to school, but it's like
That's
now it's
true.
on us of what we choose to educate
Yeah.
ourselves in and dive into. Because look at that, in just a few short years, you've leveled up tremendously, and it's your efforts, and your willingness and your passion, and it's great because I've seen you kind of put that passion to so many things. So I was like, well, she's doing photography, she's good, because I know if she just puts the same effort that she's been with the events or with the real estate or whatever it was into that, it pays dividends in so many ways. Not just money's not even the number one, but just feeling good about what you're doing and doing what you love is huge. So that makes me really happy to hear. Just you hit that moment, your job was kind of taken away, and you're like, oh wait, I got plenty of time to invest. Like maybe I'll watch a show or two, but I'm gonna make my own show. I'm gonna direct my own
Wow, I like
production.
that. I
Like,
like that. I feel like I gotta write that down on a post-it and like have it like next to my computer. Like, wow. Yeah, I mean, well,
yeah,
one thing I wanna, reply to that you said is, how I didn't go out and spend a whole lot of money. And I'm a very big advocate of trying to work with what you've got. And I don't feel like you need to have really fancy anything to create,
yeah,
or to work on your goals. I organized a lot of those events that, at the beginning when I first moved to New York City, I organized a lot of those events working on a $300 laptop from Walmart in my apartment kitchen. That was, an apartment I shared with 5 other people, no air conditioning in the kitchen. Just like,
wow,
I did not have like a nice office to go to, or I moved to New York City with really no connections here, even though I realized, even though I was always coming up here to hang out, I wasn't making friends. I really hadn't built a network up here, so I didn't know a lot of people up here when I first came.
yeah,
And I was just like, well, this is what I've got, So when I made the decision to buy the camera, I was trying to think like, oh, should I spend $1,000 on the camera? Should I get like kind of the mid-tier one? And then I was like, no, because you don't even know how to use the lowest tier one. Like, learn how to use that, and then you can upgrade. So
yeah,
when I did wind up upgrading, it was almost, let's see, like 2.5 years after I bought my first camera. And I did a very serious upgrade. I now shoot on a Sony A7 III system. I upgraded to a very professional level camera, which was also the mark of me taking it more seriously now. I was like, okay, well, I can invest money now because I know that I'm going to make this money back, because I'm using this as an instrument for my business.
yeah,
Like, this isn't just something that's, fun to take pictures at parties anymore. Like, this is actually an investment in myself and my business. So that's the first thing. I think that it's always available to you to work with what you got. And you can really create with anything. So that's the first thing. And then I had a second thing, and I just feel like I lost it because I was so passionate about working with what you got. But yeah, there's work with what you got.
Now
There's that.
that's so real. And it's such a good feeling when you're like, yo, I need this new piece, you know? Like
Yeah. Oh, and
I was
I,
printing on a
yeah,
I was printing on a it's crazy. So shout out to everyone who's supported the brand for so long, but I was using a freaking $400 heat press for like 9 years. And like
just working
it
with
was
what you
good,
got.
but I didn't even know, like, to me I thought that was the best. But when I found that, like, I found out there were ones that were like 2,000, I was like, 2,000? A heat
Yeah.
press? But yo, the amount, you're right. In 1 week or one good day,
You make that all
it
back.
came
That's
and the ability that it gave me, because now it prints double the size, double the length.
right.
It exchanges this. You switch this. Like the amount of skills it gave me is crazy. So like, but it was cool to master that simple tool and then just get to a point where like, damn, I got these big gigs. I want to get this result. Like I need to get this level up, and then you get the level up. It's a good feeling. So congrats to you, you know, for getting that Sony. That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is a good feeling. I think also around that is a mindset shift around money. I was very, very broke for a long time,
Yeah.
working in social services, like during that period. It really put me into a hole that took a long time to climb out of, because it's not like I had savings or I was still very much living paycheck to paycheck up until a couple years ago. And i'm
Yeah.
i'm no longer a realtor. I've been working full time actually in marketing now for the last couple years. um, but up until that time I was like, well, all I could literally afford at the time was a $500 camera, and that
Yeah.
was even a large chunk of the whole life savings that I had to do that. It was really a mindset shift to see spending money as an investment, and to start to see how, yeah, if I do purchase this better camera, which undoubtedly made me a better photographer, like just the equipment and there's so many automatic settings on this camera that on my first one were all manual.
Mm.
So I'm like, this just like works faster. It's just like a more professional tool. This is already putting me in an advantage. um, because I'm able to now offer a much more professional looking product, I'm gonna I'm gonna get a more professional client. I'm gonna get people
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
willing to pay more. But it definitely took me a little while to see the spending of money as, something that you have to do to get to the next level. You don't always have the money to spend. So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
that's why I'm like a very big advocate of just like working with what you have immediately in front
Of
of you. But
course.
when you do start to have a little money to play with, you can see how you can work it to your future benefit. So I feel like I'm at the precipice now that I have to invest a little bit more money into my photography business, because it's like getting I need it now to like
Yeah.
continue to take on the bigger gigs that I have been taking, like weddings. So I'm like,
Good for you.
just like, yeah, like just trying to get myself in that place to spend the money. But I know that once I do it, it all comes back. But that initial investment is sometimes a little
Oh
bit tough.
yeah. No, it's I totally hear you. I still look back at the days where like I was buying my first trademark and I had $0 in my account and I didn't know what I was doing, and they hit me over the head for like 15 times more of what I could have done it on my own, just because I didn't
Mm,
even know. And that put me even deeper in a
right.
thing, and it didn't
You
even
make
go.
mistakes.
Whatever
Yes.
I was trying to do didn't work out the first go around, and I had to figure it out on my own, which was crazy. And like I remember those days. I remember delivering food, and like that $40 that I was getting was like the amount of money I had. And I remember
Correct.
someone broke up with
Yes.
me during that time because they wanted to like get an apartment. I was like, get an apartment? I was like,
I know.
I'm grateful to be doing what I'm doing. And it was literally just the start. It was like 15 years ago, right, when this
Mm,
was happening. But I remember those days where I was like, oh shit. And like I think about it now, I'm like, damn, like I'm able to get a sandwich for $20. Like, should I do this?
I
And then I'm
know.
like, all
I
right, I earned
know.
this. I could go for it, And
I
we
know.
work so hard, and it's crazy, kind of jumping that. But it's like, but we also earn this. And I'm happy
Yeah.
to see the level up. Being broke is a real thing. It's a real thing.
It is a real thing, and I've definitely been there with you that, I'm when I'm babysitting and waiting for those parents to come home to, give me 60, 80 bucks in cash for the night because I have $3 in my bank account, like
Yeah, yeah,
I need that $80 to buy groceries, like that was not 15 years ago for me. That was not in my, so distant past.
yeah.
Um, but I feel like, and that's kind of also how I wound up in New York City because I had been doing the events in New Jersey for a few months. I was selling real estate. I was babysitting, I was like the master of all different gigs. And I hadn't had a pay stub job in like years, because I had quit the group home. I had just been doing real estate. So I didn't have any proof of income. And the roommates that I was living with were moving to Texas.
Mm,
And I was like, I couldn't afford the apartment that we were living in myself. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And I was trying to look for roommates on Craigslist, and I was like, I don't even have, like, I'm like, I can pay rent, like I promise, but like I didn't have any proof. People want to see proof that you have a job. You're not just like a
yeah, yeah.
babysitter when you're trying to live with strangers from the internet. So I wasn't really going anywhere there. And then I had a friend who did live in New York City who had a room open up in her apartment, and she wasn't going to charge me a deposit, and she wasn't asking me to sign a lease. And I think it was $700 for the room, which felt like a huge amount of money to me at the time. But like now looking back, I'm like, wow, I wish I could live in New York City for $700 in rent. Um,
Yeah,
and so that's where I wound up. Like I had, again, if we're going to talk about dreams, I had also always dreamed of living in New York City, but I had no idea when that would ever happen for me. I was like, probably not till my 30s. How can I afford to live in New York City? I really couldn't.
yeah,
But the
yeah.
universe just kind of like plopped me in the city. There was truly nowhere else for me to go. And now almost 7 years later, I'm somehow still here. I didn't run back off to New Jersey. So I guess it was the right move. But
Wow.
yeah.
And what a switch, because everyone I know is in New York and they're all going to Jersey. I'm not gonna say no
Yeah.
names, but there are a lot of
Yeah,
a
no.
lot of my people and my
Yes.
listeners. It's like left and right. It's
Yeah. Yeah. I
it's
mean, I've seen so many people, especially over the last couple of years, leave the city. A lot of people come here for, they move here from Texas or whatever, and they
mhm.
come here for a couple of years and they do their thing, and it's hard
Oh
and
yeah,
expensive
it
and
is. Yeah,
oftentimes traumatic to live here. So
yeah,
I very much get why people would
of
leave.
course.
Um, during COVID, or it was what it was early 2021. So COVID was still kind of raging. A lot of people were leaving New York, and there was a lot of deals on rent. So at that time, my boyfriend and I were like, let's go find a cheap apartment, like let's go in on New York right now as opposed to
Mhm.
leave. I have friends that moved to North Carolina and have a beautiful balcony that their cats sit on, and they have a huge apartment. Like they were like, I'm going to live the sweet life, and we were like, we're gonna still live here. So we're on a
Yeah.
2-year lease.
Okay.
We've got
Okay.
we got another year left on it. I don't know where we'll end up after this. You know,
Yeah.
I miss New Jersey a little bit. I miss the suburban life. I miss having a car.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I also really do love living in New York City and the opportunities that it affords me because
Yeah.
there's a lot here.
No, it's just great to hear, right? It's like everything we learn, regardless if it's going to be a different thing that like you you were doing real estate, you were doing events, and now you're doing photography, but we every lesson that we learn from whatever it was, we take that with us. Whether it's how to write a business document or to not talk to someone, whatever it is, whatever the lesson is, we take that to our next world or wherever project we go. So, here you are, you've learned so much along the way, and it's just like you're just smarter and more evolved each time. And here you are, it's just,
Yeah,
and that's what it is about this journey, the creative business entrepreneur of just, wanting to create and being a service to people. And it's just like you're doing great work, you're making people happy. It's just contagious. It's just contagious. And it's just great to see, you doing it and you making a living and in a city that really it's no holds barred here. Like the rent's just changing, this changing, this it like
yeah,
it beats you up, this city, to the point where people are
yeah,
like, yo, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go to North Carolina and
yeah.
have 2 acres, and it'll be better than Hoboken for 6 G's. You know what I mean? And
I know. I'm listen, I've been on the precipice of leaving a couple times. Um it was like I remember it was fall of 2017. I don't even know why. I was on the phone with my mother outside of a bar in Washington, D.C. Like, I don't know why I was talking to my mom at the bar.
yeah,
Um, but I remember telling her because I was applying for jobs. I was having a lot of trouble finding a decent paying full-time job. I was working as a receptionist making literally minimum wage in New York City. It just wasn't cutting it anymore. And I was on the phone with my mom and I was like, listen, if something doesn't work out soon, like if I don't get a better job soon, and I was applying to hundreds of jobs, I
really.
was like, I think I'm just gonna leave New York. Like I can't. I was living in a terrible apartment with like really stressful people, and I was just still broke, you know. So I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah, it's
I
tough.
this is not making sense anymore. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not making it in New York right now. And about a month later, I did wind up getting hired for an event sales position. So, like, my first legit job in events and in sales, you know, bringing all of the experience that I learned doing sales in real estate, as well as organizing and planning events for my own series, brought this into this role. And just like knocked it out of the park there, like made a bunch of money in commissions and in sales, and then ultimately transferred into the marketing department of this company, which then launched my actual formal full-time career in marketing. So yeah, that was kind of a pivotal moment. I was like, if something doesn't work out, like I'm going to have to leave.
yeah, yeah.
But just at that last moment before I really gave up, I did get a better job, which has allowed me to stay in New York.
Yeah, that's real. What
Yeah.
do you say to yourself, right? Like we have this inner dialogue with ourselves. Like is there something that you say to yourself to keep yourself motivated, or what do you do to keep this attitude? Cuz you even said like I had a tough moment. And I don't and people always say it about me like, "Oh, Dave, you're always so positive." And it's like, "Nah, like you didn't see me the hour before I just had this combo with
Right.
you. Like
Yeah.
I was
Right.
I was working through it to get to where I am when I saw you.
uh,
Is there something that you do like to kind of level, to get back on track? Because life gets crazy, right? And it gets stressful. Like,
yeah,
well, what do you say to yourself, or like, how do you get back in your like ninja stance?
that is a great question. I think what helps me continue to have perspective and to have motivation for the future is a practice of journaling. So I have been journaling using this like online closed platform. Like it's not a blog for people to read, but this online platform called 750words.com, which allows you to just free write.
Cool.
And it marks you at 750 words because that's the equivalent of 3 pages. I've been using this website since late 2016 and have been in various relationships with it. There have been times where I have journaled consistently every single day for months. And then there have been months that I have not journaled at all. And
Yeah,
now
yeah.
I'm in a practice of a couple times a week. And this does a couple things for me. So first, it helps me check in with just where I'm currently at. Sometimes if I don't journal for a few days, I'll feel kind of upset and scattered and not in control of my thoughts. And then when I sit down and write them all out, they start to make sense. And I can start to put puzzle pieces together and figure out why I'm feeling a certain way or what the next right action in something might be. But journaling kind of helps me untangle my brain that can be quite scattered and hyperactive. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing it does, because I started doing this in 2016, I have a whole archive to look back on, which I do frequently. You know, I'll say like, all right, where was I today 5 years ago? And I can go and look at that. And sometimes I haven't journaled that much, which kind of sucks because I'm like, oh, I wish I had kept some kind of record, which is what helps motivate me to continue to keep the record so I can check it.
Yeah.
But you know, other times I'll go back and I'll look at it, and oh my God, especially you know, it was days where I was really, really broke and just kind of down and really considering like maybe New York is not right for me right now. I look back and I see how depressed and upset and stressed I was, but also how much I was creating and how much fun I was having and how much I was making happen for myself despite making $300 a week as a babysitter, you know?
Yeah.
So looking back gives me a lot of perspective and hope. And I'm like, wow, like I was able to get through that and to create in that state and to, again, just work with what I had back then. Whatever I have in front of me has no power over me because at this point in my life, I have an exponential amount more of resources and connections and knowledge. You know,
Yeah.
I had no business sales marketing knowledge, you know, 5 6 years ago. You know, to see everything that I've built since then to now, it's like wow, like that kind of resets me. If I'm stressed or I'm upset about something, it's like no, like have some perspective, see where you used to be, see what you've built now. You can move ahead against any obstacle. Nothing will stand up in my way. That's how I feel.
That's powerful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's just a blessing to have been able to find that tool for myself. You know, I am by no means a self-care expert. You know, I could
Yeah.
definitely you know, meditate more, exercise. Like there's definitely a lot more habits that I know are just great for like overall mental well-being that
Yeah.
I you know could be more consistent with. But I feel like journaling is that thing that you know I'll go maybe months without journaling and then I'll kind of realize it and I'll be like, this is why I'm so depressed or upset right now. I have
Mm.
not been giving myself the space to just work out what's going on in my head. Like I have to just sit down and
Yeah.
get it out and see it. And there's so many of my entries that begin with like, wow, like I haven't journaled in a while, but like I forget how much I need this. So I keep coming back to it. It's like if I've been doing this, I don't think there's any website other than like Facebook and Instagram that I've been using since 2016. You know, like
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
tool that I'm very grateful that I discovered and works for me.
Yeah.
And I know that tool is different from person to
Of
person. You know,
course.
some people are like, I can't write out my feelings, you know, like that
Yeah.
wouldn't process it for them. But maybe for them it's dancing or painting or singing, you know,
Yeah.
there's so many creative outlets. You know, sometimes I work out ideas in those journal entries that have become pieces of writing that I have
Mm.
launched, you know, or
Yeah.
have helped me put together social media content or gather my thoughts around something that I want to speak more on. So, um, I mean, I think another dream from my childhood before even thinking about psychology or social work was I wanted to be a writer. I was a prolific writer in elementary and middle school. Like that was the subject that I excelled the absolute most in, and created all kinds of creative essays and poems and stuff
Hmm.
outside of whatever I was assigned in school. So I think I naturally just take to writing as a, you know, as a way to get my thoughts out of my head. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the tool for me.
That's powerful. Yeah, I actually journal almost every morning. I try my best, and I look back, Sam, and I'm like, the one regret I have in life is not writing down what I was going through.
Yeah.
Like, because when I do, it you're right, it changes your attitude. And it also, like, you're talking to someone. Like, not all the time we could talk to someone about what we're going through, because there's all these different situations, right? Like, you want to respect the person maybe you're having a problem with. There's all these different, and you're like, well,
Of course.
I want to talk to someone, but I want to keep neutral grounds with certain things. Like, but the journal, not judging, it's not bias, it's just you. It's you and you, right? And it's been very beneficial to me. And I'm like, damn, I wish I did this earlier, but I'm like, wait, and when I'm 46, whatever, 10 years from now,
Yeah.
I could look back and be like, look, I'm so happy I'm doing this now, because I'm writing my pains. I'm like, oh man, long day. Damn, but I'm going to
Yep.
figure it out. Oh, I want to get this. Oh, damn, this didn't work out. Damn, this one's mad at me. This one, oh, I got to get this back on track. And, like, it's very powerful. It's very powerful. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's just to be able to look back
yeah,
and to see like things that you were stressing about or that you were upset about, you know, 5 6 years ago. I have handwritten journals from even before that, you know, so
yeah,
to read some of my handwritten journals from like 2013, I'm like, oh my god. Or my live journal from high school, you know, I
yeah,
can't, I've broken into my live journal a couple times over the last few years, and I'm like, oh god, I can't even read that. Like, I just complaining about my mother or
yeah,
whatever was happening at school, you know. But it helps give you perspective. You know,
totally.
a thing that I've been recently doing is trying to remember to do a quick gratitude list on my phone at the end of the night when I'm laying in bed and staring at my phone anyway, just to open up an iPhone note and to jot down a few things that I was grateful for during that day. And it doesn't have to be anything spiritual or grandiose, you know. Like a lot of times I will write down the food that I ate that day. Like I'm just
Yeah,
grateful that like I cooked this really nice dinner and I got to enjoy it, you know. Because
true.
especially, you know, my life is very different now. You know, pre and post COVID. You know, pre COVID I was going into an office every day. I was working part-time at Madam X and at a bar lounge where there were all kinds of fun events going on, you know, 2 3 times a week. I had a very active social life outside of the house. I wasn't home very much. Now I'm home all the time. And,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
a lot of my leaving the house is going to shoot photography. So it's always kind of work related when I'm leaving. There's not like a whole lot of outside social. It's coming back a little bit, you know, but I think it's very easy to get caught up in the boredom and the monotony of not leaving my neighborhood for days on end. So when I take
yeah,
a moment to just write down just those quick things that I'm like, actually, no, like today was really nice. Even though I just walked around the block, like I saw some beautiful flowers. I saw a really nice sunset. I had to have this, I got to have this great dinner. Like I had a nice hot shower. Just taking a moment to consider those things that you just blow through your day. You know, you just take that shower, you just eat the dinner. Like take a moment and be like, actually, wow, that was really nice. I really did enjoy that.
Yeah.
It kind of helps put a little bit of that joy back in my day. Um, because I guess that's another thing that I can say is like kind of helping to keep me, positive and motivated and moving forward is like maybe realizing I don't need all of that external, stimulation and to be partying and going all the time like that. Like there's a lot of stuff in just the daily day to day that is really wonderful and brings joy. And I'm truly, utterly deep down very grateful to be experiencing it.
I completely agree. It's true. It's so true. And I'm gonna do that too. I don't do that a lot of the time. I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm just
Yeah.
because I'm like I like kind of just doing stuff. I'm either playing a video game or on the phone or on the iPad. Like I kind of don't stop. And I wake up, I'm like, damn, I'm grateful I just slept the whole day. Cause like I know
Right.
people they wake up middle of the night, they can't go back to sleep, and I'm like, I'm grateful I'm able to do that to just
Yeah.
start and then there's no interruption. Um,
Yeah. I mean, and I think that that's a very important practice of gratitude is to find those very banal, boring moments and actually realize that they are something that brings you joy and like something that
yeah,
you can be grateful for, and I creating gratitude lists is something you're going to hear in a lot of self-help workshops or healing setting, because it works, practicing gratitude does put you in a more positive mindset. And I have in the past, like, kept a gratitude notebook and wrote with pen and paper at the end of the day. I had this moment with myself a couple of months ago that I'm like, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to, like, every single day write, like, with a pen and paper. But every single night before I go to bed, I'm usually laying in my bed, staring at my phone, scrolling on Instagram. Like I can open up a phone note and just real quickly, like
hmm,
type of like I usually don't even put more than like 10. I try to get to like 10 items, but this is not an exhaustive list. And again, sometimes an item can just be like, I made a delicious dinner, like
yeah,
it
yeah,
does not have to be this like really spiritual moment. Like you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
removing all of the pressure of performance around this task just to make it super simple and accessible. Now I can look back at the last several weeks and like, it's also kind of like a little memory log,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm able to like go back and be like, oh yeah, like 3 weeks ago, my friend did pop in on me, or
yeah.
why haven't I made that recipe in a while? Like that was good, so it kind of double acts as a memory log as well, which is nice. And it's quicker and faster to do than like writing out a whole journal entry. I'm
Of
also doing
course.
that, but like the gratitude list is just like a little quick. It takes me no more than like maybe even a couple minutes. But
Yeah. No, that's really good advice.
yeah, I don't always remember to do it though. So,
Yeah,
but as
of
if
course.
I do remember, if I'm laying in bed and I'm like, oh, I should make a gratitude list, I will force myself to close out of whatever I'm scrolling. I'm like, no, you can spend 2 minutes doing this task.
Yeah,
Like just write it. You're on your phone anyway. Just write it out. What are you grateful for? So yeah,
no,
I
that,
encourage you to try that out and see how that works for you.
yeah. Okay, definitely will. So, you've been sharing your dream. You shared the dreams, what you wanted to do growing up, where you're going, where finding ways to make dreams work even on tough times. Like, what's like a dream now that you have, right? Because like you just kind of keep knocking them out the park.
I appreciate
Like
that.
what's one if you don't mind sharing? Like, do you have one
Yeah.
that kind of on your list is like, or if you want, I could play. If you want to play a quick game, I don't even know what I'm about to ask you right now, but I call this game Dream On. I
Okay.
normally just ask people questions, and they
Okay.
may seem a little out there in terms of, oh well, I'm not gonna meet Denzel Washington. Like it may be like that, you know what I mean? But like it'll make you
Yeah.
think about it, right? So if you want to play, I'd be happy to ask you a couple of questions. And if the question is like weird or you're not into it, just let me know and just say next question or whatever, all right?
All right. Yeah, I'm
All
down
right,
for
cool.
that. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking all these dreams, talking about photography. I think it only makes sense. So like, all right, cool. So if you could photograph any celebrity that's living right now, who would it be?
Mm, that's a really good question because I really haven't thought about that.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like, I would love to photograph somebody that I personally like.
of course.
I'm a very big Doja Cat fan
There you go.
and a very big fan of her style and her aesthetic. And I was
She's cool.
snooping around like who does her photography, and she has one photographer who she shoots a lot of her stuff with,
Yeah.
but I see that a lot of the photography she posts, which is absolutely gorgeous, it's done in a studio setting, and I've
Yeah.
seen the behind the scenes. She has a photographer with
Okay.
a light and a backdrop. I don't shoot in studios. I'm either shooting, indoors with a flash at an event, or if I'm doing portraits, I'm typically doing them outside in environmental, like you out on the street in New York City,
Yeah, yeah.
So I would love to shoot Doja Cat in a more environmental setting. I don't know what that would be. I don't know, maybe a New York City street or something,
Yeah.
but create some images with her where she's not just in that studio, like she's actually out in real life, maybe interacting with people and just reality around her. That would be cool.
Yeah, yeah. She's in like planet her, right? Like
Yes.
she's in her planet,
Yeah.
but it'd be cool
Yeah.
to take her out of that planet and be like, look, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. If you could take photographs in any country in the world, where would you go?
Okay, that is a good question. That is something that I have thought about. Um, it has always been a dream of mine to travel to a few different countries in Asia. I
Yeah.
would love to visit India, Thailand, Japan, Singapore. Like there's several countries over there I would like to go to. Um, and would love to do some photography over there. Um, Definitely in the most, respectful, fun kind of way. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm a big fan of capturing parties and fun and like that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I don't want to like go do street photography in India. Like I like what
Yeah.
is the party scene over there? That's
Yeah.
probably what I'd want to like discover and infiltrate and document.
That'd be cool. If you could photograph any event, it could be like festival or inauguration or whatever it is. Like, where would you go? Um,
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I'm not really trying to go in the direction of music photography. Like
yeah,
I've done some live event photography, but I would love to shoot like, I don't know, like a Coachella or a Lollapalooza, one of
yeah,
these like very large music festivals. Um, and again, probably like the more behind the scenes, environmental, not just the shots of the performer on stage, but what are the moments of them leading up to being on stage? What's going on in the festival grounds?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Like them
um,
praying before them with the huddle, or
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Those like
absolutely, absolutely.
improv, not posing, yeah, or
Yeah,
performing. I love it.
yeah. And I say a music festival because it would be a ton of different artists, like
Yeah.
to be able to shoot, everybody who was hot and today, like to have
Mhm.
access to all of that would be like probably my biggest dream. But I say that I'm not like actively working towards that though. I'm not like, oh, like how
Nah,
do I
nah.
get into shoot festivals? But
Yeah,
like that, yeah, that's a dream.
yeah. That it's just throwing it out there. A lot of this stuff
Yeah.
most people don't even think of. It's like,
Mm,
cause like we're either living our dream, right? And a lot of this is like maybe I'm just dreaming with you or just throwing random stuff out there.
right.
But yeah, what's cool about it too, you ask people these kind of far-fetched questions, it just or they may not even seem far-fetched to some people. They're just like, Oh, word? I
They're
would
like,
do
actually,
this.
no,
I
I've
would do.
thought about that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I want to do that.
But I think the coolest part about sharing dreams with people, this is maybe dreams we didn't even think about till now, but like any dream, right? Like, oh, I want to be this, or oh, I want to go here. You never know who you're talking to, and
That's true. Or who's listening.
and they
So if
and
anybody could get me a press hookup for Coachella with my camera, like slide in
yeah,
the DM, let me know. You're right. You're right. You never
people
know who's
remember,
listening or watching.
and
Absolutely.
people are, and people, they grow up with you, or they they see you, they believe in you. If someone believes in you and they like you, they're like, "Oh, word, yo, you should hit up my cousin. He's
Yep.
cousin Robbie. He's doing this. He's with Riff Raff. Oh, he's with Diplo at this. He was just with him at Org." And then before you
Yep.
know it, like it's crazy, but like that's how life is, right? Just putting
And that's how
yourself
business
out there.
works.
Yeah,
That is how business works. I mean, I'm already seeing that today, how people will start to bring you in or introduce you to opportunities, and what that allows you to, then you have those photos that you can show to get another opportunity. It all
yeah,
just like builds on itself. So yeah, it's fun to also just play this little thought experiment and be like, yeah, like if like where would I go? Who would I want
yeah,
to take? I've never thought like, oh yeah, I want to take pictures of Doja Cat on like a street in New York City. But me saying that, I'm like, actually no, I would really love to do that. Like how could I do that? How could I move in a
yeah,
direction that like that becomes an opportunity that rolls into my field? It's
yeah,
probably not as hard as you think it is, actually. You
yeah.
just got to kind of set
Right.
the goal and work towards it.
It starts with the dream.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a brand or like a company or that you would want to work with?
That is
Could
a
be like a
really good
fashion brand or like a
question.
car brand or I don't know.
Yeah, I was recently thinking about this because about 5 years ago, I made a whole list of brands that I wanted to work with.
Okay.
And I was kind of like considering like, are those still brands that I would want to work with today? It was like a lot of alternative fashion and like music artists, because I feel like that's more what I was about. What I would say, this is actually it's something that I have thought about. I would love to work with maybe some kind of luxury travel service, to
Yeah.
be able to I don't know, document luxury experiences or homes around the country or the world. Um, we were a friend of mine. We're just watching the Action Bronson Vice series,
Mhm.
and I was like, wow, what a job to just be able to go around the country and eat and get drunk and just like so something like that, like to be able to, I don't know, partner with the Food Network or partner with, Hyatt or Marriott or something, to be
Yeah.
able to travel and to show what's going on in those places.
I love it. Yeah, and I appreciate you for, kind of playing the game. It's just throwing stuff out there, right? And just having
Yeah.
fun, dreaming, throwing and it's crazy where it goes. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So for anyone that
Absolutely.
wants to like find your stuff or follow
Yeah.
the journey, connect with you, what's the best places to follow your journey and check out the photos and all the work and everything?
Yeah. So the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. I'm on all the social platforms as Sam Popp, with two P's, NYC. So SAMPOPP NYC. But I'm definitely most active on Instagram, and a little bit active on Twitter. You can check out my photography portfolio at sampopshoots.com. There's going to be a lot more coming to that very soon. It's due for a big update, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely hit me up on Instagram, SamPopNYC, or check out my website, sampopshoots.com.
Sam, it's just amazing to, catch up, hear about all the things.
Likewise.
I didn't even know about a lot of this, I knew Jersey, I didn't know what part. I didn't even know the journey. I've seen all the progress, but it's just great to really hear the stories and what you went through, even when life was throwing you different curveballs, or big mountains were in your way, you just found ways to climb and find your way. And it's just great to hear these stories, and I'm so proud to just see you evolve and as a businesswoman, a creator, and keep up the amazing work. I'm just great to
Thank
it's great to
you.
see.
Yeah, no, likewise, this was really fun to reflect on all of this, you know. I think sometimes we don't take the time to really tell ourselves the story of how we got from point A to point B, and when you hear it come out of your mouth, you're like, "Oh wow, like
Yeah.
I am proud of that. That was quite extraordinary." So this was really fun to catch up and to reflect on all of this with you. And who knows, that the year is young. We're just about to be halfway through the year, but maybe there's an opportunity for us to do something again
Yeah.
together. The year is young, so let's see what
Yes.
happens in 2022.
Yeah. I would love all that. And yeah, you always have my support. And
Appreciate it.
I,
Likewise.
so for anyone tuned in, my friend here, she just shared amazing gems with you. She always found a way. This woman, she was doing whatever it took to, live in New York, whether it was babysitting, walking dogs, whatever, walking kids, you know, and always just found a way, and it was just great to hear her story about just life being thrown her way, and like, well, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna make this work. And it was just great. And she talked about just starting. You have a passion for something, you don't need the fanciest schmanciest thing. Just get in the game, right? Just find something, an entry level of what it is, and it's like where your creativity and your passion and your dedication to the craft will show you that, and you'll level up and grow as you go, right? But get to those points. And it was just amazing to hear her story about just using her phone to now using some amazing professional work, and photography stuff. So, and Sam, it's just great to hear all this. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
And everyone tuned in, don't forget, make sure to subscribe. You could hear the stories of dreamers like this every week. People that have really turned their dreams into reality, people that put on for their community and the culture, and just gems. You apply these things. We talked about gratitude, talked about journaling, documenting, and just so many great things, so many lessons. And and when we say dreaming, we mean going out and going for it. It's not sitting home and wishing. That's important, but like, put in the effort in, going after the education, connecting with other dreamers, building your community and your tribe, and just and keep going. And then of course taking the time to reflect and rest and take care of yourself and find ways to find peace. So yeah, so I appreciate my whole community tuned in. Sam, keep up the amazing work, and we'll be
Thank you for
seeing you
having
soon.
me. Yes, likewise.